Hey, what up, everybody? It's your boy Carson Fox with another edition, episode 4 of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. This time we are previewing Saturday's matchup, Saturday, September 9th, against our beloved West Virginia Mountaineers and the Duquesne Dukes. So, as I like to do, and anytime I'm doing one of these preview matchups, especially with a team that West Virginia hasn't played very often, I want to give a little bit of the history to kind of preview the matchup back and forth. So, some interesting tidbits I found on the history of West Virginia's opponent, Duquesne, to kick off this video. West Virginia first squared off with the Dukes in 1914. So, signaling the beginning of World War I, that is when West Virginia and Duquesne, which was a club football team at the time, faced off in Morgantown. That contest ended in a 31-0 shutout for the Mountaineers. Then West Virginia played Duquesne 7 consecutive years from 1929 to 1935, when Duquesne moved up from club football to FBS football. The Mountaineers went 3-1 in those matchups, most recently being beat by Duquesne 19-0 in a shutout loss in 1935. So West Virginia's almost had on a 100-year wait to enact revenge on the Dukes for their 1935 loss. So that's a fun little tidbit of history that you can share with a friend. Duquesne, most notably. So who are the Dukes? Looking back into their history, as recent as 1992, so a year before I was born, Duquesne was an NCAA Division III team. Then they joined the Metro Atlantic Conference and then either won outright or shared the league title 11 out of 16 seasons. So Duquesne has had its fair share of success in football, yes, at a lesser division, as recently as 31 years ago in Division III, but now all the way up to the FCS level. Then they moved up into the Northeastern Conference, and they've seen a good bit of success even then under current head coach, the winningest head coach in program history, Jerry Schmidt, most recently winning the league in 2018. Now, last year, Duquesne had, a bit of a down year by their standards in 2022, going 4-7, which included a week 1 47-7 loss to the Florida State Seminoles, a 31-14 loss to Youngstown State, who's West Virginia's played in recent years in FCS. I found this interesting, a 24-14 loss at Hawaii. So Duquesne flew to Hawaii to play that game and played the Rainbow Warriors tough. And then a heartbreaking 50-48 double overtime loss to Long Island, who West Virginia played in non-conference play just 2 seasons ago. So couple of or 4 teams there that you would be familiar with from their schedule. A 4-7 record in 2022. They are off to a 1-0 start last week, winning a 49-7 victory over a Division II opponent, Edinboro University. And it was a lot of running in that matchup. Just to give you a whereabouts of who this Duquesne team is and what you can expect come Saturday. They ran the ball a lot against Edinboro, ran it 40 times, 9 different rushers toting the rock, led by a redshirt sophomore. Here's a name for you, Taj Butts, who ran 10 times for 108 yards, including a 39-yarder on the day. Junior quarterback Darius Parantes only completed 7 passes, but for nearly a 20-yard completion average and 2 touchdowns in that game. And then defensively, looking the other way for Duquesne, the secondary came away with 3 interceptions, including a pick 6 by redshirt sophomore Aiden Garnes, who received the league's Defensive Player of the Week award. So I point all of these things out to say that, this will be a team that had some success last week, albeit against a Division II team who was night and day whenever you're trying to compare to West Virginia. But I would say giving Duquesne or West Virginia's proximity to Pittsburgh, where Duquesne is located, for all those who have never heard of Duquesne, who is, when you spell it, it's spelled Duquesne. Travel isn't going to be much of a concern. A short bus ride down from the city of Pittsburgh to Morgantown, especially at night. So it's not like they have to get up early morning or anything and, stay overnight per se on Friday night in Morgantown, get to sleep in their own, dorm room beds and come down early, Saturday morning. So this improves an intriguing matchup for me in comparison to playing someone like 1,000 of last year or LIU a couple of years ago. Duquesne just, about an hour's away in the city of Pittsburgh. I really do wish that West Virginia would play Duquesne more so than just once every 100 years. Same with Robert Morris, which is also about equidistant to Morgantown. So something for Ren Baker to consider in scheduling moving forward, a close proximity opponent who has had some success, especially over the last 30 years, but not necessarily most recently as last year. So what I will say is I usually in these preview videos, I like to give you all 3 keys to victory. But in a game like this, I don't think there's any doubt that West Virginia is going to win this one. And I see this as a tune-up game, as Burt Reynolds liked to say in The Longest Yard. Like many other teams last week in week 1, Oregon beating Portland State, 81-7, Oklahoma hanging near 70 in their week 1 contest. Our conference brethren now, Central Florida, just pounding Kent State into submission, and even our hated rival Pitt playing Wofford, the Terriers, last week. So West Virginia didn't have that to start out the year, a tune-up game in week 1, going on the road at Penn State, maybe the hardest game in the country last week. So this is an opportunity for a game that Neal Brown definitely appreciates being on the schedule, and West Virginia had more of them, more cupcakes on the schedule. I see this one being, as I called, I think, about a month ago now in our season preview episode 1, 45-13. So I'll give you, though, 3 of the things that I'm looking for in this contest so that we can see for improvement come the backyard brawl just a short week away. So number 1, my first key to that I'm watching for in this contest is cohesion between the quarterbacks and wide receivers. I just think too many times last week against Penn State did Mountaineer wide receivers look like it was their first week playing with Garrett Greene. That's ironic because it was as him as the starting quarterback, but really the timing was off. Drop passes or overthrows killed any sort of offensive continuity that the run game could then generate. And a lack thereof of the vertical passing game downfield really didn't allow any of that running game to open up. I thought, as I said in the recap video, that I think West Virginia in the passing attack was conservative to a fault. So let's start to build some rapport with Cortez Bram, with Devin Carter. Deshaun Polk was injured in last week's contest. We'll see if he's a go this week. Get some of these wide receivers involved. So my thought is, and this is my take for the quarterbacks, this might sound like a little bit radical, but if I was Neal Brown, I would start Nicco Marchiol, but let him play with the expectation that he's going to get the first quarter and make it known that Garrett Greene will be playing the second and third quarters. And you say, why the hell would you do that, Carson? What makes sense does that make? Here's why. For one, Nicco Marchiol needs a taste at this point now in his West Virginia career of being the starting quarterback. And what better on paper matchup than this to get Marchiol what Garrett Greene never got in 2021 backing up Jarrett Deggy and in 22 backing up JT Daniels. Duquesne will be at its most juiced point early on in the game. So there's some quality reps there for Nicco. And if it all goes to crap, I mean, if there's some interceptions or it's just a 0-0 game, then who cares? You got Greene going into the second and third quarters, the meat of the game, when you'll really retake this lead. Marchiol needs confidence. He really does. I know just a redshirt freshman, but he needs that taste, like Geno Smith got against Auburn back in 2009. Coming in late into the game for Jarrett Brown, not on an apples to apples comparison there, but Nicco needs his moment. He needs his time. He is the best high school recruited quarterback that West Virginia's had since Geno Smith for West Virginia, not being a transfer. So give him this opportunity. You're going to have my rocking Milan Puskar Stadium under the lights at night. People, and if he goes out there and he throws all over the field and, touchdown after touchdown or just methodically leads this offense, how happy will you make fans? How happy will you make fans who will love nothing more than the second string West Virginia quarterback? So fans are happy. You light even more of a fire under Garrett Greene. Boom. You get handed off to him in the second and third quarters. Continue to let him work with his timing with his receivers. I'm sure we'll continue to see read option runs, which are going to be this team's bread and butter. But then you give Nicco more of that pinch hitting experience into the fourth quarter when you hand it back to him, which is kind of the role that he's in now, unless Garrett Greene gets hurt or he's called in for a trick play like we saw week 1 against Penn State. I still don't understand that play. Give him back the fourth quarter. We do not need to see Sean Boyle. Let it be 8, then 6, then 8, and play it out for 4 quarters. So I'm sorry if it may feel to Duquesne and its fans as if Neal Brown's taking a page out of James Franklin's book and trying to run up the score, but this team needs live in-game reps, not hitting a team that's in blue and gold, or in this case, gray and gold jerseys. So that's my take on the quarterback situation, and getting some work with its receivers is the number one thing that I'm watching for. The second thing is the pass rushers getting to the quarterback. I just thought last week too few at times would West Virginia get a good rush only for Aller to step up in the pocket and deliver a pass cleanly. I really do think that's what separates college quarterbacks from NFL caliber quarterbacks, and Aller really seemed to show in week 1 that he is one of that mold. I haven't seen a college quarterback, an opposing quarterback, do that against the Mountaineers probably since Kyler Murray in 2018 at Milan Puskar Stadium in that matchup. So it's more than just getting pressure. It's more than just sending a rush, but disrupting the quarterback's delivery, either by way of a quarterback hit, changing his arm slot angle, making him feel rushed, or actually getting to him, bringing him down to the ground for a sack, or batting the ball down like Day Hawkins did early on in the game last week. So do we see Tomia Duraje build on his 1 sack performance last week? Can Eddie Vesterin and Mike Lockhart do more than just plug holes in to stop the run? Do we see sack specialist James Hurd Jr.'s name get called? And where are you, Jared Bartlett? It's been years. Like the lady from the Titanic meme. I mean, just years, Jared Bartlett, of getting into the backfield and disrupting quarterbacks. We need you, Jared Bartlett. I really actually don't think that Sean Martin even needs to suit up for this game. In fact, I'd like to see him sit this one out to kind of rest up against Pitt. I know he came in and played through the Penn State game when he was a little banged up toward the end of fall camp, and he was a warrior out there last week in Happy Valley. I just think this week now against Duquesne, let's see some of the other guys on the defensive line. I know what Sean Martin's capable of. I know he can be a game breaker for West Virginia's defense. He's the best defensive lineman that West Virginia has. It's got to be some of these peripheral ancillary players who contribute into the pass rush. I am a little concerned hearing this news, recording this Thursday evening, hearing the report that Montre Miller, the cornerback transfer over from Kent State, has experienced some sort of significant injury and haven't got any of the details on that, but he's going to miss Saturday's game, and this could be something that potentially affects him for the entire 2023 season. It's feeling like 2022 all over again in the cornerback department. You really, truly cannot have enough cornerbacks. I don't know why that this position has just seemed to plague West Virginia for the last 12, 13 months. To lose a Montre Miller who had a higher overall rivals transfer recruiting grade than Charles Woods. So in a sense, you thought you were getting an upgrade. That just puts a lot more pressure on Andrew Wilson-Lamp. That puts more pressure on Jacoby Spells, who missed last week's game because of an injury as well. Beanie Bishop's out already, it seems like, on an island. And then we have some young guys who are true freshmen, or Malachi Ruffin having to play significant time. So I'm a little bit concerned in that department, as not one of my things to watch for, but just a little bit concerned there. For my third point, I really think it's kind of seeing some of these true freshmen at the skill positions on offense, namely Rodney Gallagher, Traylon Ray, Jaheim White. Let's see if this is the start of them contributing in some form or fashion, either offensively or on special teams for this season. Rodney Gallagher being the top really recruit for the 2023 class, but Jaheim White showed out into the spring game. Traylon Ray got some time in last week's game against Penn State. So I want to see these three guys and what they can do, but also the guys who are the second string on the offensive line come the third and fourth quarters, excuse me. So if the main starting five, I'm talking Wyatt Milam, Tomas Remak, Zach Frazier, Brandon Yates, or Jaquay Hubbard, however they want to rotate that. But Yates played awesome last week. I got to give him some credit there. And then at the right tackle, Doug Nestor. I think if you give them the first half, then sit them for the rest of the game, let's see what these guys do. So they'll actually, these starting five, save for Remak, who came in midway through last season when James Gamitter officially retired and left the team. I mean, this team has had a lot of starting experience between the five of them. So over the last really two seasons, in some cases into three. But I'm talking about guys like Nick Malone, Bryce Biggs, and then the redshirt freshman cast of Sully Weidman, Landon Livingston, Mo Hamilton, and Charlie Katarincic. And then Brown's been high on the true freshman offensive linemen who may not necessarily be as physically prepared and ready to go in this game, so we might not see them. But if so, what do some of those true freshman guys bring to the table? But if Frazier's going to the NFL next year, who knows what happens with Wyatt Milam to follow him, and Doug Nestor is out of college eligibility. You're looking at potentially three starting linemen needing to be replaced on that offensive line. You'll have Remak for another year. You'll have, I would think, one or the other in Jaquay Hubbard and or Brandon Yates both having eligibility. So you might be able to figure it out in that regard. But this Matt Moore and Neal Brown have both been really high on these guys who are part of this redshirt freshman core four that I just spoke to. So Biggs, Nick Malone being some of the upperclassmen who I think are in their third and fourth seasons. Malone also being a former walk-on, now scholarship player. Biggs still being a walk-on, but he was a really high-quality two-star recruit coming from the same high school at the same time as Wyatt Milam. So I hope he gets in there. I hope he plays well. So those are my three things that I'm watching for in this matchup. Once again, 6 o'clock, Milan Pushkar Stadium in Morgantown, West Virginia, going to be streamed on ESPN+. So that's always an adventure if you're ever tuning into any of those broadcasts. But what I'll say, Mountaineer Nation, don't hold your breath. You can go to bed, confident Friday night, knowing that West Virginia, if it absolutely had to win this game one-handedly, they can hand the ball off to CJ Donaldson, 40 or 50 times in this game, score 70 to 80 points, and blow this game out. But is that really how you want to win? No. I think not only is it to win the game, obviously, but we need to see improvement. We need to see the major flaws that affected this team in its loss last week against Penn State start to be rectified. I don't know if you can completely rectify those things in just a 60-minute contest against a team that played a Division II team a week ago, but this team needs to be as fully prepared, much more prepared for its next week's contest, the backyard brawl at home against Pittsburgh. So this is a tune-up game, and I hope that West Virginia gets tuned up. So thanks for tuning in to this preview. I'll be watching, and then I'll come back on Sunday, and we'll be able to recap it and break it all down for you. So hail West Virginia. Talk to you later.